super soaker. Torrential rain turns Toronto roads into rivers.
Oh my gosh.
The rescues, the mess, and the misery. Also on this Tuesday night, pleased to revamp BC's foster care. The trail of mistakes and abuse that led to an Indigenous boy's tragic death. From fierce opponent,
I'm a never Trump guy,
to running mate.
I plan to be a very good vice president for Donald Trump.
How J.D. Vance ended up on Team Trump. And a startling revelation after a poor performance. This singer's apology and admission about her well-being.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a torrential rainstorm that hit Canada's biggest city. The intense storm dumped so much rain on Toronto so quickly, highways and streets turned into rivers, trapping some drivers, snarling public transit, and knocking out power to multiple neighbourhoods, including Toronto's downtown core. This was Union Station, a key transportation hub. Stairs became waterfalls and floors a dirty, wet mess. Parts of major highways in Toronto were shut down, including the Don Valley Parkway. Many drivers had to abandon their vehicles. Close to 100 millimeters of rain fell at Pearson Airport in 3.5 hours. Sean O'Shea has our top story on the summer storm that caused havoc.
It was no average rainstorm. This is what Toronto drivers saw through their windshields navigating along the lakeshore downtown. So much water accumulating far too fast for the roadway drainage systems. The city's fire department was called out for one rescue after another. This man had to climb on his car's roof as the water level rose. He couldn't go anywhere until firefighters using a small boat brought him to safety. He wasn't injured, although there are risks.
The challenge is the fact that it is fast-moving water. There's a lot of debris within that water. It's murky, it's dirty. There's hidden dangers underneath that water.
The persistent rain surprised drivers who hadn't expected so much of it. This roadway beside the Don River frequently floods, but not everyone knows that.
So the water here is so deep that we just barely got through with our news vehicles. The people behind us didn't make it, so we're going to go check and see who's in the vehicle right now. It's so deep you can't see the curbs. You can't see anything.
We came upon a couple in a car who misjudged the water level on the road and got stuck.
Are you guys okay? Are you guys okay?
Oh my gosh.
Did you call for help?
Oh my gosh.
You didn't see it coming, did you?
No.
It's grassy
Oh my
there.
gosh.
Hang on. Hang on.
They were terrified. We helped them get out to safety as the water flowed into their car.
Oh my gosh, this is scary. I am scared. I've never seen this before. Never.
You just saw it was heavy rain, right?
I thought it was maybe 4 inches, 5 inches.
They're safe, but the car wasn't going anywhere until the water level subsided. A hard lesson in how quickly conditions can change when rainfall picks up. And for the City of Toronto, questions to be answered, like why the city's Don Valley Parkway was closed in one direction but not the other, leaving drivers stuck for hours.
Of course, there will be a review so that we, if there are some things we can improve on, I'll guarantee you we will know about it.
Drivers, too, learning from their experience, the risks of trying to get somewhere when it's probably safer just to stay home. And then after all that rain, the sun came out, giving people a chance to see the damage left behind that now needs to be cleaned up. Donna.
All right, Sean O'Shea in flooded Toronto. Thanks. Intense storms have wreaked havoc throughout the U.S. Midwest as well, leaving a trail of destruction and hundreds of thousands of people without power. The U.S. National Weather Service says multiple thunderstorms and at least 3 tornadoes hit parts of Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana overnight. One person died in Indiana after a tree fell on a home. In Chicago, wind and severe rain caused extensive damage, and hundreds of flights were delayed or canceled. Flash flood warnings are still in place for large parts of the region. The FBI is still searching for the motive of the gunman who opened fire on former U.S. President Donald Trump. The head of the Secret Service said she takes responsibility for security failures. In an interview with ABC News, she was asked how the gunman was able to climb a ladder onto a roof and have a direct line of sight to Trump. Kimberly Cheadle said a decision was made to secure that building from the inside because the roof was too sloped to put a sniper team on. Local police were posted inside but failed to heed warnings from witnesses about the gunman on the roof. Cheadle and the heads of the FBI and Homeland Security have been called to account at a hearing next week. And tonight, there are multiple reports the Secret Service beefed up Trump's security in recent weeks because the U.S. received intelligence about an Iranian plot to assassinate the former president. Investigators have not identified any links between the shooter and any accomplice or co-conspirator. Canada does not share America's history of political assassinations, but there are serious concerns about security of Canadians in public life, and the RCMP is struggling to hire enough officers tasked with protecting them. As Mercedes Stephenson reports, Canada's National Police Force is trying to find new ways to recruit for an increasingly high-pressure job.
Threats against politicians of all stripes have been escalating.
Christia, what the are you doing in Alberta?
An issue the RCMP have had to deal with in Canada, and one they expect to get worse before the next election.
Keep your promises!
Definitely more complex, things that were not even an issue a couple of years back that now we have to pay attention.
In the face of rapidly increasing demand, the RCMP struggled to find enough protective policing officers to both beef up existing security details and start protecting more politicians than ever before.
Probably almost double, I would say.
A senior law enforcement source told Global News in order to meet the demand, the RCMP had to get unconventional. They brought back retired members with protective experience, moved officers from federal serious organized crime into protective policing, and will be asking federal air marshals to help backfill the demand on their days off or for overtime. They're also recruiting, something senior law enforcement sources say is going well, but that takes time.
Hey, we got to get this person on the job. They can pass, they can get a clearance. They might be a little physically unfit, or their shooting skills might lack a little bit.
Right now, on paper, the Mounties are spending more money on protective policing than they are budgeted for. The force needs to find more than 200 additional protective officers in coming years to make up for demand and a high retirement rate. The Mounties are hoping to reinstate a direct entry program for people with no previous policing experience. It's currently on hold due to a labor dispute with the union. Unlike the Secret Service, the RCMP has the additional complications of being a national police force and all of the responsibilities that come with that. But they are trying to modernize the way that they deal with threats. A senior national law enforcement source told Global News that a special behavioral analysis unit has now been set up inside protective policing to try to predict when people may become violent. Donna?
Mercedes, thanks. There is a devastating report into the case of an 11-year-old Indigenous boy who died in BC in 2021. It concluded his death at the hands of his foster caregivers was preventable. And tonight there are renewed calls for a complete overhaul of BC's foster care system. The details of what happened to this boy are deeply disturbing. But as Neetu Garcha reports, investigators say it's important they be shared.
He was always putting up his hand in class and was particularly interested in science and math. He was a great brother.
He was just 11 years old when he died at the hands of his approved caregivers. The boy, given the pseudonym Kobe due to a court publication ban, suffered a torturous death because of a massive error, according to a report by BC's children's representative.
We identified more than 40 points in his life where opportunities were missed.
Jennifer Charlesworth is calling for a complete overhaul of the province's foster care model.
And if we do not support healing from intergenerational and colonial violence, the impact of any other changes will be incomplete.
Kobe was beaten for 9 minutes and then in hospital was removed from life support just before his 12th birthday.
Missed background checks, the lack of eyes on the children, and the lack of response to the concerns of family, medical, and educational professionals contravene the most basic social work practices.
In response, the BC government has committed to a comprehensive reform of its child welfare system.
There isn't any part of Colby's story that we can leave unexplored.
Last year, in an exclusive Global News interview, Kobe's father, who we can only identify as RC, spoke out about his son's death while in the care of foster parents who RC trusted.
It's really sick and it's really hurtful.
RC and his former partner suffered from addiction and their kids were placed in foster care in 2019.
It's not this system's fault today. It's the facts that it's been based on over the past 100 years for my people.
I'm hoping it is groundbreaking, and I'm hoping that my colleagues across the country will also see this as an opportunity for their jurisdictions.
As her agency gets hundreds of reports of critical injuries and deaths of young people in care every month, this ongoing tragedy is just the latest in years of calls for urgent system reform and accountability. Neetu Karcha, Global News, Vancouver.
Canada's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister answered questions today about her future and that of the federal Liberal Party. Opinion polls show the Liberals lagging well behind the Conservatives, and there are reports of tension between the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister's office. Mackenzie Gray is following this. Mackenzie, what did Chrystia Freeland say?
Dawn, after the shocking Liberal by-election loss in Toronto last month, the Prime Minister and pretty much every other Liberal has said changes need to be made, but Chrystia Freeland feels she won't be one of them.
I had a long conversation with the Prime Minister on Friday. I spent a lot of Saturday with him in Mississauga and Brampton, and I was in Ottawa yesterday at a meeting with him.
And it seems like those chats went well.
To serve as minister in a cabinet, you do need the support and confidence of the Prime Minister. I do have the confidence that I need to do my job effectively.
But Freeland wouldn't say if Trudeau assured her she wouldn't be moved from her portfolio. Questions over her future arose last week when a report from the Globe and Mail said top staff in Trudeau's office have doubted Freeland's ability to sell the government's economic plan, something Trudeau vigorously denied.
I have full confidence in her abilities and on the work we're going to be doing together.
But privately, many Liberal MPs and staff have grumbled about Freeland's communication skills, and polls show Canadians broadly agree with that sentiment. The cost of living and housing are the top two concerns for voters, and those issues have propelled the Conservatives to a 20-point lead ahead of the government. So then the question for the Liberals becomes, what, if anything, can be done to change that? The Prime Minister has said he's staying on, and Trudeau won't meet with his caucus until the fall, leaving a cabinet shuffle as one of the only major cards the Prime Minister has left to play to fundamentally change the course of his government, Donna, meaning questions about the future of Freeland and the rest of her colleagues will likely continue throughout the summer.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray, thank you. Healthcare was front and center at day 2 of the Premier's annual meeting in Halifax. Millions of Canadians still don't have a family doctor. Medical wait times are long, and many rural hospitals are chronically understaffed. The Premiers are well aware of the problems. Heidi Petrachik reports on whether they have any solutions.
We need to use all of our taxpayer dollars for our public system.
Outside the Premier's meeting, voices urged those inside to protect public health care.
Well, health care is important to me as it should be for all Canadians.
And mothers who lost their children to suicide pushed for better mental health care.
There's a big difference between health care and mental health care. And when you go to the emergency room with a mental health crisis, it's not like fixing a broken leg.
Canadians, healthcare workers, nurses, doctors are crying out for help.
All reasons why healthcare leaders came to sharpen the meeting's focus on the front lines.
On providing the basic and primary health care and focus on providing care and respect for our seniors.
What we're doing right now isn't meeting the needs of Canadians. So we have to take a step back and think about how can we improve access.
Premiers say they're trying, even as federal dollars fall short.
You're not going to hear one premier here over the next 2 days that say that that's enough dollars to just keep up with the increased inflationary costs. It sometimes feels like we're just beating our head against the wall.
And BC's leader expressed his frustration over what he says is Ottawa's failure to collaborate in areas like healthcare training and recruitment.
Wouldn't it be great if there was a national government to coordinate that discussion? Oh, there is one, but it's not happening.
While Ottawa takes over in others.
What we ask for from Ottawa is a partner to work with us on those things and not try to go around us.
Nobody cares who's responsible.
Those worried about healthcare say what matters most to them is how it gets fixed. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Halifax.
From bitter critic to Trump's heir apparent, coming up, the U-turn that led J.D. Vance to be Donald Trump's running mate. The man former President Trump has chosen as his running mate is a rising star within the Republican Party, and 39-year-old J.D. Vance could be Trump's heir apparent. The road he's traveled has taken a sharp turn, though. Vance once said Trump could be America's Hitler. He called Trump an authoritarian fascist. Now, Vance is by Trump's side at the Republican convention. Jackson Proskow is in Milwaukee. Jackson, do Republicans there trust J.D. Vance?
Well, Donna, before he was selected, polls suggested that only about a third of American voters believed J.D. Vance was the right choice for vice president. Many of the delegates we've spoken to have expressed reservations of their own, but they say if he's Trump's choice, he can be their choice, too. As running mates, they're perfectly matched. Donald Trump, the populist, and J.D. Vance, the chameleon, who transformed from harsh critic into Trump's loudest attack dog.
I plan to be a very good vice president for Donald Trump for 4 years.
Vance toured the convention hall ahead of Wednesday's acceptance speech, where he'll set the tone for what his vice presidency would look like.
JD's been a champion for the positions of President Trump. Both President Trump and I endorsed his candidacy when he ran for Senate, and we're delighted to have him in the race.
He's staunchly anti-abortion, even in cases of rape or incest. He opposes U.S. support for Ukraine and has said he doesn't care who wins the war.
Focus on our own country's problems.
And he's a 2020 election denier, just like Trump.
He's a clone of Trump on the issues, so I don't see any difference.
His fealty is pretty remarkable when you consider Vance once compared Trump to Hitler.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked it.
That all changed when Vance decided to run for Senate. Today, he doesn't hide from his past.
President Trump was a great president, and he changed my mind. I think he changed the minds of a lot of Americans.
This is one of these people that Donald Trump can say he was able to convince. And if he could convince the guy who's his own vice president, he can convince the American people.
If Republicans are skeptical of Vance, they're willing to take Trump's word that he's the right man for the job.
By president, whatever he does, I oppose him. I'm supporting him.
Vance's bigger challenge will be expanding Trump's appeal. There's little to suggest he'd win over anyone who isn't already in Trump's fold. Since the attempted assassination of President Trump, there's been a lot of talk of unity, and tonight we'll focus on unifying the Republican Party itself. Two of the featured speakers are those who ran against Donald Trump for the nomination. One is Nikki Haley, who hung in the fight until the bitter end. The other is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. Both are here to speak in favor of Trump. Donna.
All right, Jackson in Milwaukee tonight. Thanks. I had a discovery off the coast of New Zealand that could shed light on the world's rarest whale. There were more Israeli airstrikes on Gaza overnight and this morning. The deadliest strike hit a UN-run school. It was housing displaced families in central Gaza. Palestinian health officials say at least 23 people were killed there. Dozens were injured. At least 17 others were killed near the southern city of Han Yunis in a separate strike. The Israeli military continues to say it is only targeting senior Hamas militants. There's been a frightening bus crash on a highway about an hour north of Barcelona, Spain. It happened at the entrance of a tunnel. The bus flipped and then got stuck, propped up on the tunnel's entrance. More than 50 textile workers were on board on their way to work at a nearby factory. 25 of them are being treated in hospital, including 3 people who are in critical condition. In New Zealand, researchers believe the body of the world's rarest and most mysterious whale has washed up on a South Island beach earlier this month. The 5-meter-long creature is believed to be a spade-toothed whale. It's a species so rare, next to nothing is known about them. There have been no living sightings recorded. It's not known how many are alive, what they eat, or where exactly they live. Genetic testing is now underway, but it could take months. If confirmed, this would be the first specimen found in a state, allowing scientists to dissect it and learn more about the species. That is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is these geese in Ottawa. Thanks for watching and hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.